On Global TV News Prime, court orders People's Democratic Party fractional chairman Turaki's arrest. Business, federal government unblocks $2 billion investment in electricity sector reforms. And on the foreign scene, United Kingdom cracks down on Russian oil shadow fleet amid global tensions. In sports, International Olympic Committee bars transgender athletes from women's event. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. A high court of the Federal Capital Territory has issued a bench warrant for the arrest of a fractional national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Kabiru Turaki San, over his failure to appear for arraignment in a criminal case instituted by the police. The trial judge, Justice Kekemeke, held that Turaki had no justification for his absence in court and consequently ordered his arrest. Turaki, a former Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs under President Goodluck Jonathan, is being persecuted by the Inspector General of Police on a one-count charge of allegedly providing false information to the police in a petition dated October 2022. The case had earlier come up on January 28 for arraignment, but was stalled due to defendant's absence despite a prior court order directing him to appear. Meanwhile, the two People's Democratic Party fractions have restarted the flattering peace process ahead of March 29 to 30th National Convention being championed by the bloc led by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. The bloc headed by Tanimu Turaki and supported by the party governors confirmed that a fresh reconciliation process aimed at uniting aggrieved fractions within the party had commenced. Turaki, who disclosed this in Abuja, explained that the reconciliation, which was kick-started on Tuesday night, is yielding some results. Moving on to the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says the upcoming National Convention of the All Progressive Congress will highlight the party's unity, democratic maturity, and commitment to national development under the renewed hope agenda. He made this known in Abuja at a world media briefing ahead of the party's 8th National Convention, scheduled for March 27th and 28th, 2026. Sadia Yakubu reports.
Addressing journalists, the minister described the convention as a defining moment for the party, bringing together delegates from across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory for leadership elections and policy direction. He noted that the gathering goes beyond routine, serving as a platform for reflection, consolidation, and strategic planning for the party's future.
The convention hopes to bring together delegates from across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory for policy engagement, leadership elections, and a formal transition to a new set of party executives, representing both decision-making platform and also a moment of reflection, consolidation, and direction setting for the next phase of our journey.
Idris said since its formation, the APC has remained committed to progressive ideals, national unity, and purposeful leadership, maintaining resilience across electoral cycles. He added that the party has continued to manage leadership transitions in an orderly manner, strengthening internal systems that promote accountability, inclusiveness, and stakeholder participation.
Our convention theme says it clearly: unity in progress, consolidating the renewed hope agenda. This theme is not just a slogan. It is a concise statement of who we are, where we have come from, and where we intend to go. Aligning internal party processes with the country's broader governance vision and projecting continuity, cohesion and clarity of purpose.
The minister also assured that all arrangements have been concluded for a smooth and credible convention at Eagle Square, Abuja, with committees finalizing their work to ensure seamless coordination. He commended the president's leadership for promoting inclusivity in advancing policies aimed at strengthening governance and national development. Sadia Kubu, Global Television News.
In another development, the North Central Zone of the All Progressive Congress has adopted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a sole candidate for the 2027 presidential election. The endorsement followed a unified position by governors, senators, former ministers, and party stakeholders across the region, who threw their weight behind the president's re-election bid. Benue State correspondent Felicity Indere reports.
It was a massive gathering of party faithful and stakeholders as the All Progressive Congress held its North Central Zonal Congress in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital. At the Congress, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and leader of the party in the region, Senator George Akume, moved a motion endorsing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the APC sole candidate for the 2027 general elections. The motion, seconded by Governor Abdullahi Sule, was adopted by the stakeholders through a voice vote and acclamation, reflecting a consensus across the zone.
Nigeria is moving towards another cycle of election. With the area people have seen, the political people have seen, the politicians have seen here, the grassroots people, I have no doubt in my mind that when the votes are finally counted in 2027, North Central will provide the highest level of votes for us.
The Congress also produced a new North Central Zonal Executive Committee through a consensus arrangement consistent with the process earlier adopted at the ward, local government and state levels of the party's congresses. Muazu Bawa emerged as the regional vice chairman following the consensus election of zonal executives.
Your trust is both a great honor and a solemn responsibility, and I assure you that I will continue to serve with dedication, loyalty, and unwavering commitment to the ideals and progress of our party.
Representing the national chairman of the APC, Professor Abdulhakeem Kana commended the unity and loyalty of party members, describing it as a foundation for the stability of current administration.
We are reminded that this zone is not just a geographic middle belt, but a political bridge of Nigeria. The North Central, where I also come from, has remained a steadfast fortress for the APC.
Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia described the peaceful conduct of the Congress as a reflection of the region's unity and its commitment to supporting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and other APC candidates in the 2027 elections.
The entire North Central is one, fully unified, fully armed to get out there, make it good for our governors, make it good for all our candidates in North Central, and above all, make it extraordinarily good for Aswaju.
The North Central Zonal Congress is part of the build-up to the APC National Convention scheduled for March 27, 2026. In Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, Felicity Indere reporting for Global Television News.
Still in politics, one of the newly registered political parties by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the Democratic Leadership Alliance, has unveiled its vision for Nigeria in Abuja. Political correspondent Ubong Usoro was there for Global Television and now reports.
At a time the nation continues to grapple with economic challenges and insecurity, the Democratic Leadership Alliance says its emergence is driven by the urgent need to reposition Nigeria. The national chairman of the party, Barrister Samuel Mema, says the Democratic Leadership Alliance was founded not just as another political party, but as a movement of purpose built on clear ideological foundation anchored on Pan-Africanism, ethical leadership, scientific advancement, and people-centered governance. He added that the emergence of the DLA is a response to the urgent need to rescue Nigeria from systemic failure and economic stagnation.
The Democratic Leadership Alliance was founded not as just another political party, but as a movement of purpose built on a clear ideological foundation, anchored in Pan-Africanism, ethical leadership, scientific advancements, and people-centered governance. Our emergence is a response to the urgent need to rescue Nigeria from systemic failure.
The National Publicity Secretary of the party, Professor Chris Nwakobia, while speaking, said the economic policy of DLA is clear, transitioning from a consumption-based economy to a production and innovation-driven system, promoting industrialization and local manufacturing, and investing heavily in technology, research, and youth-driven enterprise.
This is not just about security, this is about food sovereignty, economic stability, and national survival. We must protect our farmers, secure our communities, and restore confidence in agriculture as a viable and profitable venture.
The Alliance is also calling for youth participation in agriculture and national development, emphasizing innovation and structured support systems. Ubong Usoro for Global Television News.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has commended the sustained investments and humanitarian interventions of the Gates Foundation in Nigeria, pledging the federal government's support for an expanded partnership to advance the reform agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Speaking at the State House in Abuja, the Vice President described the organization as a strategic partner in Nigeria's development drive. Shettima assured the delegation that the administration would elevate its collaboration with the foundation, particularly in critical sectors such as digital transformation, nutrition, agriculture, and healthcare. Health workers under the aegis of the Joint Health Sector Unions and the Assembly of Healthcare Professional Associations today protested at the Unity Fountain in Abuja. The demonstration is said to be against the proposed health sector regulatory bill, which is before the National Assembly. The associations noted that they are against the bill, and if allowed to pass, it would subject every medical profession to the regulation of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Troops of Operation Hadike have arrested 18 individuals allegedly supplying logistics to Boko Haram terrorists in the Gubbio local government area of Borno State. In a statement, the Nigerian Army said the arrest highlighted a disturbing pattern of civilian involvement in support networks that sustained insurgent activities in the northeast. The suspects were intercepted with moving through Gubbio towards the Gudubali exit, allegedly to deliver supplies to terrorist elements. In a related development, troops have repelled an attack by gunmen on an illegal mining site in Riom local government area of Plateau State. The incident was contained in a post shared on X by security analyst Zagazola Makama. Makama cited that the attack happened around 9 p.m. on March 24th at a mining site in Rim village, where unidentified gunmen reportedly tried to seize tin from miners. You are watching the live broadcast of News Prime. News Prime continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign, and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Hello there. Here's your weather update. Temperatures remain generally high across the country, creating favorable conditions for convective activities. Combined with strong moisture influx, especially over the western region, we expect widespread rainfall across the southern areas and some parts of the central region. Looking at this high-impact weather forecast map, areas highlighted in yellow are likely to receive between 10 and 20 millimeters of rainfall in the next 24 hours, while regions in green can expect around 0 and 10 millimeters. By Friday morning, isolated thunderstorms are expected over parts of Kogi, Kwara, some parts of the Federal Capital Territory, and across the coastal cities. However, thunderstorms activities will become more widespread during the afternoon and evening hours. So stay informed, and thank you for watching.
back, and if you're just tuning in, this is News Prime on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the federal government says sweeping reforms in Nigeria's power sector under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda are becoming to yield measurable results, with improvements recorded across the electricity value chain. And the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, disclosed this in Abuja during the inauguration of a new headquarters of Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company, describing the development as a critical milestone in strengthening the sector's financial and institutional framework. Adelabu said the reforms anchored on policy overhaul, market liberalization, and institutional strengthening reposition the power sector for sustainability and increased private sector participation. Moving on to the federal government has unveiled a sweeping reform agenda to reposition Nigeria's cooperative sector as a major driver of economic growth, food security, and financial inclusion. These follow key resolutions reached at the 8th regular meeting of the National Council on Cooperative Affairs in Abuja. Anete Patrick reports for Global.
Addressing delegates, the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliu Abdullahi, said the Council's resolutions will fast-track the transformation of cooperative societies into strong engines of grassroots development. Central to the resolutions is the adoption of the Renewed Hope Cooperative Reform and Revamp Program, a 7-pillar strategy designed to overhaul the sector. This includes regulatory reforms, digital registration systems, improved access to affordable credit, and plans to establish a cooperative bank of Nigeria.
We commit to full integration of the cooperative digitalization program, of which we have 5 consortiums that have volunteered to work with us and so far have done so many things pro bono supporting this digitalization effort.
The minister stressed that cooperatives remain vital to national development, supporting food production, small businesses, rural livelihoods, and job creation across the country. He noted that despite their potential, the sector has been constrained by weak structures, limited funding, and poor coordination challenges the new reforms aimed to address. Council members also resolved to harmonize cooperative operations nationwide, strengthen state-level institutions, and adopt a unified reporting system to improve accountability and efficiency.
Having chaired the National Financial Inclusion Committee for 4 years at the Central Bank, the way we do it is that once a thing comes from a partner like this, all the working groups own it.
There is an urgent need to review the existing Cooperative Act and policy, both of which are long overdue.
And bringing all stakeholders together to ensure that we work hand in hand to make the cooperative ecosystem great once again.
Stakeholders at the meeting reaffirmed their commitment to leveraging cooperatives as vehicles for poverty reduction, youth and women empowerment, and economic diversification. Anete Patrick reporting for Global TV.
Dangote Refinery says global market forces are responsible for the high cost of petrol in Nigeria despite local refining. Managing Director David Bird says the refinery operates without subsidies and remains exposed to international crude prices, freight and insurance costs, all affected by geopolitical tension, particularly in the Middle East. Bird raised concerns over limited access of locally preferred crude, forcing it to import at higher costs, stating that addressing regulatory challenges and improving crude supply would be key to reducing fuel prices in the long term. Now, in the meantime, the federal government has lifted the ban on fuel imports, granting 6 new licenses for the importation of premium motor spirit petrol, following concerns over supply and geopolitical tension in the Middle East. This comes after the Dangote Petroleum Refinery grapples with mounting foreign exchange losses, highlighting the challenge of the Naira for crude arrangement. A senior management official of the firm disclosed that the deal's inefficiency has eroded potential earnings, even as regulators seek to subsidize domestic fuel supply. And on the foreign scene, Ghana's foreign minister has welcomed the United Nations resolution designating the transatlantic slave trade as a grievous crime against humanity. He's also calling for accountability and reparative justice for nations involved in the historic trade. Mukhtar Qasim reports.
Speaking after the vote at the United Nations, Ghana's foreign minister Samuel Ablakwa dismissed criticism from some Western nations and insisted that countries involved in the slave trade must acknowledge their role and take responsibility. The resolution, adopted by a majority of member states, calls for restorative justice and highlights the lasting impact of slavery, including systemic inequality and racial discrimination.
Good afternoon. Today, the international community has taken a significant, considerate, and historic step forward by adopting this landmark resolution declaring the trafficking of enslaved Africans and the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans as the gravest crime against humanity.
He also urged the return of looted African artifacts and stressed the need for concrete steps towards compensation and institutional reforms.
Today, through this resolution, the world has spoken with clarity and truth. We have affirmed that the trafficking of enslaved Africans and their racialized chattel enslavement is the gravest crime against humanity, a crime whose scale, structure, and enduring consequences demand recognition at the highest level of our shared global conscience, so that we can move.
The vote has reignited global debates over reparation, with some countries opposing aspects of the resolution despite acknowledging the historical injustice of slavery. Mukhtar Qasim, reporting for Global TV News.
London has sanctioned hundreds of vessels suspected of being part of the shadow fleet used by Russia to bypass Western embargoes since the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has agreed that the UK armed forces and law enforcement officers will now be able to intercept vessels that have been sanctioned by the UK and are now transiting through its waters. Zaral Nasiru has the rest of the story.
The move comes as Washington eased restrictions on Russian oil to soften prices sent soaring by the US-Israel war against Iran. In January, London provided support to Washington during a US operation to seize a Russia-linked oil tanker called the Marinera, previously known as the Bella One, and accused of flying a false flag.
The focus here is very much on Russian aggression in Ukraine. And we have to accept that there's a war on two fronts. There's the Iranian conflict and the continuing Ukrainian conflict. Today I'll be talking to allies about what more we can do. Of course there'll be discussions about defence spend, also defence capability. And today I'll be making clear to them that I'm giving permission for the UK to intercept shadow fleet, Russian shadow fleet ships. These are ships that are unlawfully breaching sanctions, usually with oil. We'll be working with others.
Starmer is due to address a summit of the Joint Expeditionary Force, a UK-led defence alliance of 10 member countries in Helsinki this week. The UK government says it has sanctioned 544 vessels thought to be part of the shadow fleet, which it claims transports around 75% of Russia's crude. Zahra Unasir, reporting for Global TV.
In sports news now, the International Olympic Committee has announced a new policy limiting eligibility for the female category at Olympic events to biological females, with the rule to take effect from the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games. Now, the decision followed approval by the IOC Executive Board, which said the policy on the protection of the female category would apply to all disciplines on the Olympic program from LA 28 onwards and would not be retroactive. In announcing the decision, the IOC said eligibility for all female categories at Olympic events, including individual and team sports, is now limited to biological females. The committee added that eligibility would be determined through screening for the SRY gene, which it described as a reliable indicator of male sex development. FIFA, the International Federation of Association Football, has outlined squad submission deadlines for the 2026 World Cup. Teams can submit a provisional list of up to 55 players by May 11th, with final 26-man squads due by May 30th. The expanded list allows for injuries or last-minute changes. The World Cup kicks off on June 11th in North America, with Mexico facing South Africa in the opening match. Meanwhile, FIFA's Ethics Committee has opened formal proceedings against 3 senior officials of the Congolese Football Association over alleged financial misconduct. The officials on the investigations are FICAFIT President Jean-Guy Moyolas, General Secretary Wantete Badji, and Finance Director Roel Kanda. FIFA said the probe follows a review of documents and information gathered through its own investigation, aiming to ensure transparency and accountability in football governance. That's it on News Prime. Here is a reminder of our top stories again. Brought to you on Global TV News, a High Court of the Federal Capital Territory has issued a bench warrant for the arrest of fractional national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Kabiru Turaki San, over his failure to appear for arraignment in a criminal case instituted by the police. In business, the federal government says sweeping reforms in Nigeria's power sector under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda are beginning to yield measurable results, with improvements recorded across the electricity value chain. And on the foreign scene, London has sanctioned hundreds of vessels suspected of being part of the Shadow Fleet, ordered by Russia to bypass Western embargoes since the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And finally, in sports, the International Olympic Committee has announced a new policy limiting eligibility for the female category at Olympic events to biological females, with a rule to take effect from the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games. Now, a quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching.